Hello and welcome back. Let's get straight into it. We won't muck around. We're going to go straight into some transfer talk, but we're not going to do the individual players because we've spoken enough about most of these. But I'm sure they'll come up in it anyway. But we'll do some more general talk about the transfers, aren't we? So, let's start with this man here. Fires. I put ours was better problem question mark. But do we have a Berta problem? Do you think?
Not generally, but I do think that what's he doing though? That there is a. I said a couple of podcasts ago that I won't rate him until he sells someone. And at the moment, he's struggling to get rid of Reece Nelson. So, there's no hope, is there? I don't think anyone can fix us. So I'm not sure if it's just him, but he does seem to like dealing with agents who are mates of his. Which kind of just begs the question, like, what is your job? Can't anyone else do that and save themselves a massive salary? So I just don't really get what a sporting director is, to be honest. But the fact that they do have this extra level of management just means that I expect some efficiency. And there is anything but, to be honest, anything but efficiency. I get it. He's what they say about him. He's spinning plates.
Yeah, spinning plates always the thing you have.
Yeah, it's just a, it's when people try to like overstand things rather than understand them, and then they just like make up terms which don't mean anything. So he's spinning lots of plates. Okay, cool. Surely that's just dumb. If your squad is full to the brim, why are you not just focusing on two aspects of it? One, elite improvement. Two, getting rid of players. What's the issue with that? The players that are going to leave, we knew were going to leave. What? March, February. There's no surprises, I think Martinelli's becoming a bit of a one now, but even then we kind of had there's kind of enough people to think that Martinelli might have got moved on, but I just don't see the chief problem with Berta is that, look, I'll give him a little bit of credit insofar as that I can't see what he does, so therefore I'm making assumptions, but he can't sell anyone, and if he can't break that cycle, then that's problematic. I'm sure he's got his own balance sheet. I'm sure he's trying to work out what kind of profit and loss he's working with. But no, mate, until he sells someone, I'm going to say we have a problem.
That's fair. Nath, we're seeing the same problems under Berta that we saw under Edu, really, aren't we? We're struggling to sell players at decent values. The signings are pretty good. I think overall the signings have been good under both of them. But again, under Edu, we struggle to sell. Under Berta, we're now struggling to sell. Is this more of a deeper problem, or did it just happen that we've picked two sporting directors that are just terrible at that part of their job? I don't really know.
Yeah, it's tough to sort of gauge what level of who is the problem or what is the problem. It's kind of like a bit like Fi said. I don't really know what these sporting directors do. What is their job? Is it literally buying and selling players? If that's the case, then he's not really doing a fantastic job, is he? Like you said, the players coming in have been good. Good signings. However, we have been well publicised in being missing out on players and being linked with every player that's potentially anything to do with a left wing and stuff like that. So same with defenders as well. But I think the thing that strikes me is the deals that we've done. There's always been someone else given credit for that deal. So with Zolis coming in, there was a guy who I can't remember his name and I can't remember where we brought him in from. But basically, apparently, he was the one who unearthed Kvaratskhelia before he went to Napoli, and apparently he was the guy who suggested Zolis. That was like his first suggestion when he walked through the door. Again, I don't know if this is true or not at all. This is all just in the rumour mill and all that kind of stuff. And then you look at the Bruno deal, and it was going on and on and on and on and on. And then the next thing we hear is Josh Kroenke has got involved and it's deal done. And it's like, but surely Josh Kroenke hires Berta so that he doesn't have to step in and do that. And then again, the reports today are that we're going back in for Alvarez, and it's Josh Kroenke who's going out there to go and get it done. Now, I'm all for an owner getting involved and helping out if that's if that's what he wants to do, at the end of the day, it's his, he's the owner. He can go and do what he wants, can't he? But it just kind of makes Berta very redundant, especially when you flip it to the other side in terms of selling players. And like Fives rightly said, we're not selling anyone. I think the Reece Nelson one's a bit of a harsh one because, Christ, how many people have tried to get rid of bloody Reece Nelson and he's still hanging around the place? We gave him a $100,000 contract. Nobody is paying him even. I think he'd be lucky to get an eighth of that. Like, no one's paying him anywhere near $100,000, are they? If he gets 30, 40 grand a week, he's doing very, very well, I think. And I like him, by the way. I don't like him enough for him to be starting for Arsenal Football Club, but he seems like a genuine lad and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's the other thing to consider as well, is like the contracts that we've handed out in the past. We're now struggling to get rid of these players. Are we giving too bigger contracts? Have we fallen into that trap? You look at other clubs around the league; they've certainly fallen into that trap, and even worse for them because of like the PSI kind of rules and stuff like that. They're not generating anywhere near as much as what we do. We've been quite lucky recently. We've had some top-end finishes. We've gone deep in the Champions League a couple of seasons. So we're generating a lot of revenue on the back of competitions. But how sustainable is that? How sustainable is it that we keep finishing in the top two in the league, keep getting to the semi-final of the Champions League as a bare minimum? It's a very, very high bar, and I'm glad that that's our mentality. I'm glad that our mentality is we need to be, winning the league every year. We need to be getting to semi-final, final of the Champions League every year. That's that elite mentality that you want. But how sustainable is that? You look at clubs like Real Madrid, Manchester City, Barcelona, Milan, the Milan clubs. That's probably their mantra as well, but they don't do it anywhere near enough. And we're talking about the top teams in the world here, aren't we? So it's not sustainable. So the worry is if you don't start selling players and that performance on the pitch starts to drop and those revenues from competitions start dropping off, how quickly is this going to become a real problem where it's a case of we'll have to sell players that we don't want to sell and we'll have to take money that we are offered rather than trying to get a price for them as well. So it's a concern. It's not a no concern, but it certainly could be very rapidly if we don't sort out the selling side of it.
Yeah, well, I think you've led me on to something quite nice there. Let's look at some of these players that we signed of late. Obviously, Conte we only signed on Friday, but I mean these four players I've put here, nothing against any of the four of them. I think they're all sort of decent players, but Marino, Gyökeres, Konsa, Eze, otherwise ditched Eze's first name there. They all came in a combined 200+ million between them, plus some add-ons still in there potentially. All of them 28 or over at this stage, but not a single one of them would be in our first 11, I don't think. Fires, this just isn't sustainable, is it, to keep having this much invested in this sort of player at that sort of age where they've just got no resale value is the problem, isn't it? None of these players are going to, Gyökeres might move this summer, but I mean, the other three, by the time we sell them, they're not going to get any real fees back to them, are we? I don't think.
No, probably not. I think when you have that kind of strategy, when you're buying, you're leveraging the fact that you're going to be successful. I think even with what Nathan was referring to with Berta, I think when you give out big salaries, when you give out, when you pay for lads, as you're saying, the wrong side of 27, then you're kind of saying, well, we're all in now. We have to win.
Yeah.
And if you do it, you're a hero. And if you don't, and the margin is very, very fine, because we finished second how many times now, you're stuck. So, we've seen other clubs do it as well now. You can look at Chelsea, look at Spurs, look at the rest of them. Man United is a perfect example. If you're not winning and you're spending, then it just catches up with you. That's just normal. But as the stakes grow higher and our stakes couldn't be higher. We're actually trying to win it rather than sort of like qualify for the Champions League or something. We're putting all our eggs in one basket, and that does worry me. But I suppose really I'm kind of reassured by the fact that okay, there's a high chance of us succeeding in one way or the other. But what I'm optimistic about is that ultimately these lads they're not superstars, and therefore if you chart our sort of trajectory to where we're trying to get to from where we are now, we're not far away. And what that means is these 4 lads don't play as much. And whether you risk, if you're looking at it from a purely financial point of view, if you're risking 200 million quid on, say, Vinny Jr., financially, risking the same amount of money on 4 players is actually better for you because you've spread the risk, right? It's divided by 4. But if you risk it all on one player, then Vinny has to be Thierry Henry for it to be a success. And so we're kind of investing in this like little small window that we can just get in and win some of the big pots. So I suppose really the age profile is worrying if we don't win. If we win, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. But I mean, if you look at if you went through it individually, right? Mikel Merino came in. I still can't work out why he came in because we didn't need anybody in central midfield at the time, but it just seemed like a needs must signing. And you're going to notice a theme now. Arsenal need a number 9, needs must. Arsenal need a right back, stroke centre back, right footed centre back, whatever you want to call him, needs must. Havertz Havertz leg blows up before the start of the season, needs must. So we're kind of doing this because we need to do it, and I think the numbers only really reflect what the market's like at the moment, mate. So, I was saying to you earlier about Konza. 50 million quid's a lot of money, but we paid that for Madueke. We paid first honourable mention of this pod for Madueke. But we also jokes aside, we pay insane amount of money for people that aren't playing either. And so you kind of think we pay 50 million quid for Ben White. Is that just what the market's telling us? Is 50 million the new 20 million? And we may not get the money back for them. And remember, these are only the transfer fees. There's like salaries attached. You could probably add another 50% on that. We're because these players won't have a resale. We're just putting all our eggs in, which is, haven't we wanted that as Arsenal fans for a while? Why are we always building for next season? Why don't we try to win it this season? Do you know what I mean? Like we went for years like that. Oh, look, when these come into their prime. Well, by the time they came into their prime, mate, they were either at City or Barcelona, weren't they? So I'm kind of torn between the two. It's a fair point that they don't have resale, but what is a footballer worth, man? What is a footballer worth? No idea, So, I'm not so bad with it as long as we're trying to win something. It's if we have a season like Chelsea's, for example, I mentioned them earlier, where they haven't even qualified for the Champions League for the last 2 years, I think, or something like that, and they're spending 250, 300 million pound a year. That's why they're up for sale, mate. So, it's just one of those things, mate. Liverpool spent £500 million, didn't qualify for the Champions League, or did they qualify for the Champions League? I can't remember now, but yeah. So, I'm not that concerned, to be honest with you, mate. It's logical to be concerned, but if we can't sell them anyway, Dave, then what are we worried about resale value for? They're all going on loan, and all their contracts are being terminated at some point in the next 12 months. So, yeah.
I mean, that Chelsea one, I think they're actually up for sale because their owner is seemingly a massive fraud, and potentially doesn't have the money that he said he had. But somehow it's a much bigger story in the American sports part where he's the Dodgers owner and stuff. But
is that right? I'll have to look at that.
it was him who just sold the Lakers as well, wasn't it? I think. But yeah, there's some stuff saying that maybe he didn't have the money that he's said, and especially the Dodgers, they've handed out some deals where people are getting paid down the line and backloading the contract, and it's debatable whether he actually has the money to pay it. But that might be a bit more of an interesting story in the coming months.
We'll do that.
Yeah, Nath. Obviously, Fire's mentioned a bit there, but do you think this piles the pressure on Arteta a bit? These are all like win now moves, aren't they? And definitely no consideration of 3-4 years down the line, really, is there? So, do you think it does pile the pressure on?
I think it does, but I think he puts that pressure on himself as well, doesn't he? With this whole plan thing that he's been going on about since he came, and is like, there's a 5-year plan, 8-year plan, whatever. But I think as well, you've got to look at the timing of it as well. We're looking at a time where Man City were declining. I don't say that lightly. I'm not saying it was declining. I'm saying it was like a gradual, but each season they seem to look a little bit like you could get them a little bit more. Obviously, Pep's gone now as well. I think that was a big thing especially for Arteta. So you look at the fact that we're buying all these players now, and I think. I said it before the season kicked off. I said I make us favourites because of where we're at right now in terms of the squad and how settled we are. And I think the weekend's results kind of showed that a little bit as well. We came up against a newly promoted team and we absolutely, did what we had to do. It was a champions performance. We put them in the place and we were like, nah, this is our ground. You don't belong here. Run out 3-0 winners, comfortable. You look at some of the other results that happened, and it was just a bit like, wow, there's a lot of settling down that needs to happen before we start to see who's really going to be coming out of that pack to chase and stuff like that. I think there's been a lot made about having leaders and leadership qualities as well. I think Konsa fits that one quite nicely. Premier League experience, has been high on the agenda as well. I mean, I agree with Fies. I never really understood the Moreno transfer, especially when did we not sign Zubamendi in the same window? We signed them both.
It was a year later, I think, wasn't it? Zubamendi.
I can't remember, but it was just like it's the same player, isn't it? It's the same player in the same position. Although, as we found out, Moreno is much better up front. But yeah, it was just a bit of a weird one. Gyökeres one, that one made sense at the time. Everyone was crying out that we needed a number 9, so we went and signed one of the 2 best number 9s in the world at the time. I never got the Eze one either. I thought it was a luxury signing. I thought it was kind of like, well, let's sign him just to stop Spurs signing him a little bit. Obviously, that wasn't the case, of course not. But yeah, I don't know. I was never sold on the Eze one at all. And then going back to what Five said about the transfer value as well for Konsa, 51 million, and we know that there's add-ons and the rest of it. But actually, in this market, I was a bit like, that's a lot of money, that. But in this market, I think Five is right. I think that's actually quite a good deal. Premier League experience, European experience. He's played in the Champions League. He's won the Europa League with Villa. Went to the World Cup with England. So much, you start ticking all their boxes, and already before you've even looked at the player, you're looking at 20 to 25 million in value just based on those 3 things alone, and that's before you've looked at who it is that you're signing. You can add the English tax on there as well, because let's face it, if you're an England player with above average playing skills, that's another 10 to 15 million, isn't it? So yeah, I think I agree with what Fi said. At the minute, the strategy makes sense. We've spent years signing these players that are going to be good, but they're not going to be good at Arsenal. They're going to be good somewhere else when we sell them on. And I think we were all getting frustrated. So to now turn around and say, should we not be signing some youngsters? It's like, guys, we've been there, we've done that, and we didn't like it. So we've changed, and now we don't like it again. Obviously, the sweet spot is a balance of both, isn't it? You go out, you buy some sort of 18, 19-year-old, could be anything, and then you go and sign some sort of 23, 24-year-old who's ready to start now. And then you go and buy an experienced head, which is your Bruno and your Konsa. Loads of experience, loads of leadership skills. That's your dream transfer window right there, isn't it? Mate, how many times has that happened at any club, not just Arsenal? You know what I mean? You're asking for, the sun to be shining every day, and get £100 a week for doing 10 minutes work. You know what I mean? That's the kind of land that you're living in at that point, aren't you? But I think as the world stands at the moment, in terms of Arsenal's position in it, I think this strategy does work. It's the right way to go. But I think the next couple of windows, maybe we need to start looking at maybe going back for these unearthed gems, and maybe, getting these younger players, a bit like what PSG have been doing. They've been hoovering up some young lads who are ready straight away. Maybe that's what we need to start doing next. I think we're trying to, aren't we? I think we're trying to. I know we've signed quite a few academy players in this transfer window as well that have flown under the radar. We've signed the lad from Blackburn Rovers that we've been after for 2 or 3 transfer windows. Signed a defender from United as well, who by all accounts sounds like he's pretty good at that level as well. So there is moves happening as well in the academy, but that's quite a big jump, So.
I'm just thinking, Dave. Like, do you know when we talk about signing a player, getting a great young player in, and then sort of harvesting that talent coming through to the first team, and him benefiting the first team for the majority of the prime of his career. I mean, when does that actually happen? Like, and then see it through to fruition. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it is. I'm a football fan like the both of you. I believe in that. Like, exciting young player. Do you know what I mean? We discovered them. Okay, look, it's a great thing, and when it happens, great. And under Wenger, I mean, he was the master of that. But when you think about it, lads, like there isn't really that anymore. Like in the world, I don't think. I think teams who take a chance on players between 19 and 24, they've got to get them in the first team for them to really prove that they're really good players. Unless you've got the sort of elite band level talent, like a Dowman or something, or Mgamoa from Liverpool. But that aside, you've got to give them minutes in the first team. And at a club which is the current Premier League champions, or wanting to go deep in the Champions League, you just don't have that luxury anymore. I'm not sure those two things are compatible. I think if you go the win today method, you just don't have that luxury anymore. You've got to buy players to win today. And I think if you're slightly below that, so if you're kind of like how Arsenal have been for the last 20 odd years, where we've been very below that and then kind of up there again, you get that luxury to be able to breed through a couple of youngsters, or bring in, or buy one, or bring one in from the academy. I just don't think, I don't think you get that luxury when you're at the top of the tree. Case in point, I mean, let's have a thought experiment. Do you think Bukayo Saka gets all the minutes he does before the age of 23 if we're champions of England? I don't think he does, mate.
No, I agree.
And so you've got to find that balance between when you shift your win today mentality to, okay, look, we're going to have to be a bit conservative for a little while. So, I get it. We're all being fans where, we kind of live in a bit of a fantasy sometimes, and like having great youth players coming through and showing the world who they are. I mean, the likelihood is they don't finish their career at your club. So what are you doing this for, to be honest, apart from profit? And if you're doing it for profit, well, I don't really care about how much money the club makes. I want it to win. So if you ask me which one I'd prefer, I'd much rather have a team full of Premier League. And these, make no mistake, lads, we're kind of downplaying these 4 lads. They are proper Premier League players. Even Victor Gyökeres, who I've insulted many a time, 20 goals in his first season. So he's not a dud. He just might not be the best for us. And Eze scored, I don't know how many goals against Tottenham last year. So, there's one that he put in the top bins against Newcastle towards the run-in last year. So there's these, and then I don't have to talk about Mikel Merino. He's a legend, mate. But that kind of stuff, it makes you think that, like, I don't know, are we kind of overcomplicating this? Have we not realized that we've kind of gone from being the club that aspired to win and to perhaps nurture a team through to make it champions? We're champions now. And this is maybe how how many young players do Real Madrid buy that aren't like world beaters already? In which case, they're signing a 21-year-old who's already one of the best players in the world. So it's not really you've not unearthed anything. You've just gone with the power of Real Madrid and bought someone. Same with Barcelona. Barcelona are fortunate that they just got a conveyor belt of talent that comes out of their La Masia. But I don't know, lads. We've not had real great ones come out of Hale End. We've had some really good players, and we've hopefully got a new one. But there's a whole different game out there, man. And I want to win today. I like the way champion sounds, so I'm in two minds about that. Let someone else develop it, and then we'll just give them we'll write them a Super League check and take the money and take the player. Sorry.
I do get it, but some of my concerns. So obviously, there's like talk around on Twitter and stuff from some people that I don't want to give any publicity to because not a big fan of any of them. But how Arsenal are going to probably report a loss this year unless something drastic happens in the transfer window. Despite all the increase of revenues from everywhere, these players here, there's no resale value. Say Arteta sees out his contract. I can't remember what they're saying this contract was. Let's call it 4 years. He does another 4 years of us.
Yep.
In 4 years' time, we could be in like a pretty dire financial situation, and unless something big happens, we could be heading for it could just be a cycle, and we have to be bad for a few years and then come back again, and that could just be what happens. But that's my concern with it. That I want to be good for the next 10, 15, 20 years, where we could be setting ourselves up to be good for the next 3 or 4, and then probably a few years of struggling again, and then hopefully building back to this point. So that's my concern with the sort of deals we're doing, because you got this list here, but you could add Zubamendi. I think he's 27. What was he? 55 million. Just in our defence, the backups we got. Ben White would be our backup right back, wouldn't he? 50 million. Hinkake, what was he? Was he 45 or 50? No, that's another. Just them 3 players I mentioned there. That's 150 million, give or take. Madueke, another 50 million. That's quickly 400 million just in backup players. That and don't get me wrong. That's part of why we're good. I think is that we have got that sort of depth, and we can bring in some players. But it's I just worry about the future with it. That's my issue.
You showed me the tweets that those lads put up, and I think part of it is like there's only so much you can say in like whatever is 120 odd characters. And I'm sure they've got a much more detail, or at least I hope they've got a much more detailed argument about it. But what does an 18-year-old cost you these days? Those numbers. Man City have just signed Buwadi for like literally 100 million quid. So are we saying that okay, say for example you sign the best up and coming right-sided centre-back stroke hybrid right back, right? And he's 18 years old, 19 years old, plies his trade in Spain, and you've just gone and bought him. How much do you think he costs you? Go on, shout a number, both of you.
Oh yeah, you're talking like 80 million. I don't know, making up a number, whatever it could be, couldn't you? But
that's my point. Yeah, that's my point. Like I think yes, in terms of resale, I get it. The argument is because as much like a car, right? The more you've driven a car, more mileage on it. No issue with that argument. But my point is like, if we are saying that it's more financially beneficial for Arsenal to sign younger players, you can only ever realise that when you sell them. And if you're selling them at 28, 29, 30, guess what? You're not getting the value from. You're selling them at their prime. And if you're selling them at your prime, it's at a sporting cost then, isn't it? Because I'd rather keep them. So I think, if you look at something in isolation, you can make it sound like whatever you want it to, really. But look, I take your point. These aren't great assets that we can flip. So then all that means is that your strategy then is built to win. It has to win. You have to win today. Fergie, which I always go back to, because it is the dynasty that we watched in our lifetime, right? It was the dynasty of the club, right? If you go to Fergie signed the best player in the Premier League year on year, the best defender in the Premier League year on year. It didn't matter how old they were, didn't matter what, if he needed them for the team, they would work for a year or two, he'd move them on. So really the critical thing is 2 things really. One, you have to win. Fergie kept on winning, no issue. And 2, you just got to be able to sell. and we've just gone back to the age-old question, isn't it? If you can't sell him, like the perfect example of Arsenal being so bad selling was that we couldn't find a buyer for Aubameyang. Top scorer in the Premier League 2 years in a row. We couldn't find a buyer for Aubameyang. We let him go to Barca for nothing, and 6 months later they sold him to Chelsea.
Yeah, for a
fee.
It wasn't a big fee, was it? But there was a fee there.
Yeah. So there is a part of me which just thinks that we're really bad, and if we're really bad, you can make a general argument about how our spending and our sort of net spend and whatever it is not sustainable, and I'm with you, but that's not the whole argument. The whole argument is, can you then offload these assets? If you can't offload them, then what are you gonna do? So yeah, and I would much prefer to have Eze in our team last year than not have him. I make Nathan right. I didn't really see the point in tactically why we were getting him, but he done a job for us last year. So did Victor Gyökeres. So did Mikel Merino. And if Ezri Konsa does a job, that's £50 well spent. I mean, look, because ultimately, and this probably is a different argument, but as a normal functioning football club, we're probably going to have to go multi-club at some point. Just because as a single entity Arsenal Football Club, I just don't think we're that well managed upstairs. And I think we've just got to be able to maybe have places where we can send these talents to develop or to die, basically. But either way, we have to have
that way.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? But we have to have that kind of that lateral movement at club level, and I just don't think the kind of amount of players we need now, the kind of numbers involved, I just don't think one club can satisfy that anymore. So, but just going back to the original point, yeah, I don't buy that it's a be all and end all type of thing. I don't think we're going to be in financial problems all of a sudden because winning has its own prize money that comes with it. So not that bothered about that side of it, but sort of concerned about the squad, really. If you just look at it without the money for a second, what I'm worried about more than anything is if these players are comfortable and in their 30s, they're young people, they've got families or young families just starting out, whatever. If they're comfortable, what happens if they say they just don't want to go? And then you've got to write off a whole lot of them, and that's when you start getting real sort of problems. So my concern is a little bit different. Not their age, but the fact that, can we realize an investment's benefit to us by actually selling someone? If we can't sell them, what's the point, mate?
Yeah, that's fair. No, all this, in the end, does it just basically back to we have to make sales better? Is it going to be that players like Lewis Skelly, we will have to sell your non-areas of the world, players that could potentially become better, but, they might not become better with us? Is that just what this is going to end up as?
I think, like I said before, I think it comes back to a balancing act of, you're going to have instances where, you're going to have to sell players who probably will do better elsewhere. It might just be that, it's just not going to happen for them at Arsenal for whatever reason. Do you know what I mean? Like, I look at Nwaneri and just think, in fact, an even better one than Nwaneri would be Martinelli. We've seen him now for 4 or 5 seasons, and it's just not. We can all see that there's a player there, but for whatever reason, it's just not happening. And at what point do you have to say, look, we know there's a player there, but for whatever reason, we're not getting it out of him, and it's time to move him on. And I would not be shocked in the slightest if he went on and became a fantastic player elsewhere and all this kind of stuff. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But sometimes you do just get these players, don't you? Whether they've come through the academy or if it's someone that you've signed that just for whatever reason, you've tried and tried, it's just not happening for that player. So at what point do you think you've just got to cut your losses and move that player on? Do you know what I mean? I think the other thing to consider as well is, at what point do we sort of start accepting these lower valuations? I've said it before where I think that we overprice players at our club because we think that they're brilliant and they're not brilliant, they're good. I'm not saying they're rubbish, but they're not as good as what we put them up on this pedestal because, we like them. They're our players. They're our we want them to do well, and we think that they're very good players, but actually they're not as great as what we think, and the market will reflect that. The market will take the romance completely out of the valuation. And then it's at what point do you sort of fall on your sword and go, right, well, yeah, we want 60, but we'll take 50. At what point do we start doing those kind of deals where it's like we're not selling players, but we need to, so we're going to start accepting these lower offers, and then so we sell a lot of players. Let's just say we sell all 4 of these, but take, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 20 million off each of the fees. Are we going to be happy with that? No, we're not. We're not, are we? We're going to be like, oh, he should have gone for this. He should have gone for that. But we've just been complaining that we can't sell anybody. So where's the line in that argument? You know what I mean? Obviously, I'm not saying that we should be selling players on the cheap. But what are we saying is a realistic, acceptable price? And at what point do we have to start taking those numbers just to try and generate a little bit of income from player sale?
I think we've kind of gone past realistic valuations, don't we? We just sell them for nothing, like, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, this is where I was getting with it. Is even when we do sell players, we take a crap price for it, and it's like, where's the line where it's like, yeah, okay, we're selling players and we're getting the right money for it, but I just don't think we ever will, because we always overvalue our players.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with you, but I think sometimes we look at some of the deals we've done and we're just confused as to how we got so little for someone. When you, like, I think, was it Martinelli's in talks with Al Hilal, right? Yeah. So Al Hilal signed Crescencio Somerville from West Ham for like 85 million, and they are insisting on a 55 million pound deal for Martinelli. So can you see, like, on individual? Although I take your point generally, on individual deals, we can get our nose out of joint, because we're like, well, how come we didn't get any money for that player?
Yeah.
And I can't help but think it might be the easiest equation, but I can't help but think that sometimes it's just us. It's just us, because
I agree. Yeah.
we do things like we tank the value of our players, and so someone from the Championship literally just got relegated, to be fair, but from the Championship is getting £85 million for a midfielder, £88 million for a midfielder, £75 million for a winger, and we're selling them Gabriel Martinelli. Okay, we've kind of lost stock in him a little bit, but by all means, he's a certified top Premier League player. So how come we can only get 55 million from him? So I think there's got to be something in there which is our fault. But that being said, mate, sometimes we are guilty of doing that when we overvalue our stuff. But I'm a true believer in, like, the market will tell you what that player's worth, but sometimes it's just hard to accept, mate, because there's not a planet in this fucking universe where Somerville was better than Martinelli.
And someone like Savinho as well going to Tottenham. I know there's seemingly dodgy dealings in that, but even if you swap them transfers around, he's going for like 55 million, similar thing.
Martinelli's better than Marmoush, so pick one. He's better than both of them.
Look, it's I don't know. I get potentially that we overrate players, but at the end of the day, these players have made us champions. There must be something in there. They're not.
So there is something. So I was talking to my dad, right, and occasionally when I can listen long enough to him, he makes a good point, and he was saying to me, "Well, Faisal, there's 3 mad clubs in the UK, and they pay mad money for anyone, and unfortunately for you, Faisal, they all hate you." And he was talking about Man United, Chelsea, and Tottenham. And he goes, they're not going to buy anyone from you, and you're not going to sell them anyone, because they would pay 100 million quid for Martinelli or whatever. Like, they would pay you insane amounts of money. He goes, but they just won't deal with you, guys. So do you know what I mean? You have this kind of there are individual nuances, right? When it comes to club. And
I think the other thing on that as well is that obviously it's Premier League clubs who seem to be spending these like obscene amounts of money, isn't it? It does seem to be the Premier League big clubs. These clubs have seen what these players are doing at Arsenal and are not impressed, so they're not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? They've already seen what they're bringing to the Premier League or not bringing to the Premier League, and thinking, well, I'm not going to go and spend that money on them. Whereas they'll look at someone like Bawadi or, you know, whoever it may be, you know, from a foreign league and go, yeah, I will spend a lot of money on them because they've just, I don't know, won Serie A, for example, or, you know, they're the best player in La Liga outside of Barcelona and Real Madrid, and I can't realistically sign any of those players, so I'm going to spend a lot of money on this guy.
Yeah.
I think maybe that comes into it a little bit as well. Rightly or wrongly, you know.
There was reports with Martinelli that they didn't want to sell him in the Premier League. But if you think he's not good enough, then why wouldn't you? Why would you care? If you can get more money for him, you know, it seems like we're probably going to get 55, which I still think is on the low end of, the low end of things. But, you know, we're going to get a little more than that Galatasaray fee was mentioned. But if the Premier League is where all the money is, and you don't think your players are good enough, then, well, you know, that player's not good enough for you, then why are you worried about playing Martinelli twice a year? You know, if it's, I don't know, it's not even necessarily about the specific deals. It's just a general strategy. I just find, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure what this strategy even is sometimes, which is, especially when it comes to selling, there just doesn't really seem like I don't know, I don't even know how to put it, but, you know, a proper way of thinking and a proper process of these things. It's just a little bit, you know, let's just hope for the best. And
it feels like we're quick to go out and get these sporting directors and scouts and, you know, whatever the fuck it makes up.
We've hardly got any scouts left. If we didn't, Edu get rid of them all in the end.
Well, scout might be the wrong word, but you know what I mean. All these you know, people who go out and talent find and what have you, you know. But would it not be prudent to go to, for example, the guy at Manchester City who's raking in all the money for these Manchester City players and going, is there any chance we can entice you to come to Arsenal and you can do something magical to get rid of it? You know, a bit like this, where the set piece coach has become like such an instrumental coach all of a sudden out of nowhere. Do we need to be looking at our staff a bit like, you know when you start a new serve on Football Manager, for example, and you look through your staff and you think, Christ, okay, I've got like no one who can, you know, pass a ball technically, so I need to go and find the best person who can coach that, for example. Do we need to be going out and looking at these guys who are raking in big transfer fees for their clubs and saying, you know, what's the magic secret kind of thing? Can you come over and do it for us kind of thing? Is there potentially an argument for that side of it? I'm not saying that you know, I'm not saying that that's the problem. You know, it might be like Fi says that clubs hate us and just don't want to give us any money. In which case, what can you do? You know, in which case, are we slagging off the Arsenal staff? But actually, it's not really their fault because they just can't get the deals done. I think when all is said and done, we've talked a lot of bollocks about this for the past sort of 20, 25 minutes. And the answer is we don't actually know what the problem is. What is stopping us from making these sales? Is it a combination of all the things we spoke about? Is it just one of them? I genuinely don't know. There's obviously something though, isn't there? You know, that much is obvious. There is an issue, but what it is, I could not put my finger on.
I do think Arteta plays a big part in it as well. You know, like where here with Martinelli, you know, he's decided he's not going to be part of his squad anymore. And he just makes it so clear to absolutely everyone, you know, that Martinelli isn't going to be part of his squad. It gives you absolutely no leverage in these deals, does it? And, you know, we've seen it plenty of times in the past. I don't think that helps anyone, you know. I don't think it makes Berta's job easier. I don't think it made Edu's job before easier. You know, the amount of contracts we basically paid off in that early Arteta period was crazy, wasn't it? You mentioned Aubameyang, but there was a lot of others in there that we just basically gave up on them, didn't we? And you know,
but you don't think we needed it at the time? He just came in and went, I've got a lot of players here who are just on massive contracts and aren't really doing fuck all and don't want to be here and just, you know, they're not buying into this into the ethos of, you know, like the amount of times, all right, Aubameyang was our top scorer, but he just looks so disinterested sometimes, and you're just thinking like, if you don't want to be here, then fuck off. It's fine. We'll cancel your contracts and go. You know, if you don't.
I don't think other clubs would be in the same. Like, if they decided they didn't want players, they wouldn't just be writing them off. You know, I think if you gave Man City the exact same squad, I think they'd have got fees for almost every one of those players that went, and we end up paying them to play somewhere else.
Would have.
And I think that's the issue. You know, we just give up on players so easily, and it's fine giving up on players, or you know, not giving up on them, that's not the right word, but you know, deciding you don't want a player or they're not good enough for you. But there's just no plan for it after that stage. I don't think Arteta's decided that Martinelli's not in his squad.
I don't think that's
aside.
I don't think that's Arteta's fault, though. I don't think Arteta should be getting the blame for that. I think he's doing the right thing. He's gone to that player and he's gone, look, I'm really sorry. You're not in. You're not going to be part of my plans. You need to go away and discuss with your agent, and we'll go and discuss with the club about trying to get you a move. He's being straight with that player and saying, you are not getting game time. This as simple as that. I don't want you in my team anymore. You need to go and find yourself a new club.
There's still a chance he's our best left winger. There's still a chance he's our best left winger in this squad.
No, he's not. There's not.
Of course there is.
No.
I put on Twitter the other day, if Zolis gets 15 goals and assists in the Champions League and League this year, is it a good season? That's less than Martinelli got last year. No matter what people think of him, he's produced what people would consider a good year for Zolis. I think people are getting far too carried away with a bunch of pre-season games, a game against Coventry with Zolis. And don't get me wrong, I hope he's a good player, but I think people are getting far too carried away with a player we don't really know a lot about still. Hopefully it does work out, but I think people are jumping far too quickly into the Zolis hype train.
And
there's still a chance he's our best player.
That's a Zolis question, though, isn't it? I've seen enough of Martinelli to know that I don't want him to be my starting left winger. Look, regardless of whether he's good enough to start on the left wing, regardless of that, Arteta has gone to him and said, "You're not my guy." Whether he scores 400 goals in a season, whether he scores 1 goal in a season, Arteta has said, "You're not getting any minutes. You need to go and find yourself a new club." I think as a manager, that's the right thing to do. You go to that player and you say to him, "You're not in my team. You need to go and look for a move if you want to carry." Because why would that player want to stay unless he's on like an extortionate contract? Then fair enough, he's going to stay and he's going to pick up his paycheck and he's like, "That's absolutely fine. You don't play me for a minute. I'm still going to collect my 300 grand a week or whatever he's on." Not saying Martinelli's on that. I'm just saying, if that was the contract situation. But as a manager, or even as a player, I'd want my manager to come to me and say, "You're not getting game time, so it's up to you. You can either sit and do nothing and collect your paycheck, or go and find yourself a club." Any self-respecting player would be like, "Okay, well, that's shit, but at least I know now what I want to go and do because I know that it's not going to happen here."
But then how in that situation can you ever expect the person who has to sell them players to get a good fee? How can you ever get a good fee if everyone knows that they've been cast aside? You just can't.
Arteta's not the one going round saying, "I don't want this player." Arteta's not shouting it from the rooftops, is it? Someone else is leaking that information.
Yeah, but I think it comes back to what I've said about Arteta before. Everything good at the club he gets credit for. Everything bad is someone else's fault. He's a part of that transfer thing. We hear all the time how he's an Arteta guy, and Arteta got on the phone and Arteta was a big reason that blah blah signed for us, or that type of stuff. Then when it comes to the failures of them players, Arteta didn't even want him in the first place, or he preferred X player. I think he is a big part of that. I think he clearly has a massive say in transfers and contracts and everything. I think he has a huge say in it. But yeah, I think he just gets absolved of all blame all the time, and that's sort of. I'm not saying it's his fault completely, and I get that he's made a decision over Martelli and these other players over the year, but would leaving him on the bench in the Community Shield have really been that big of a deal for you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It is not even a specific Martinelli problem. It's so many players over the years where he has just absolutely killed any value that they had. And it just puts the club in a difficult position. That's my issue. It's not even the Martinelli one specifically. It's how so many players over the year, and to be honest, the personal side of it, I think how he treats players isn't good. I just really don't think it's good. How I got told that when he decided Ramsdale was going, he just stopped speaking to him, which is just insane. And that's from a reasonable source, I would say. That sort of thing. That's just. To me, that's just not good. I just hate that side of it, and I think if it's a club in a bad position, then it hurts us long term. I don't know.
These are fair points, mate. You both make fair points. I think Arteta does get the optimistic version whenever people try to criticize him, and he's not perfect. He's gonna get stuff wrong, and the stuff he gets wrong, he should be criticized for. But he does tank value of the players. I mean, this just goes along with what we've been saying, right? So it's just undeniable. But from a perspective of like players who see out their contracts and stuff like that. That's also their right? They're employed. They're entitled to see out whatever they want. From a footballing perspective, I hate it. If I was any good at football, I'd want to play football. But I'm entitled to sit there and take my money if I want to. Like, I don't know. I think there's parts of it where he gets right. For example, he got Nketiah right. The difference between Nketiah and Reece Nelson was that Reece Nelson didn't play at all, and Nketiah played, so we managed to get some decent money for him. And the fan base was still like, well, no, we should keep Eddie, and Eddie's top scorer at under 21 level and all that kind of stuff. So the fans, it's just cultish behavior. Everyone's going to look at stuff in a binary way. They're going to think, yes, Arteta's the best thing ever, or no, he's just the worst thing ever. So he's somewhere in the middle. But I'll make you right about the tanking of the value of players. It's just bad management. It just is. It's just, eventually it's a phenomenon that I've seen from when Mourinho came into management, where as soon as he went into a club, he'd pick someone and he'd kind of make that the lightning rod of his appointment, and he'd just go after that guy. I've seen he's done it at Real Madrid as well recently. So like, this is just symptomatic of that. Like Guardiola did it with Ibrahimovic, didn't he, at Barcelona, where he just didn't like him. The club had gone and signed and done a deal for him. I think they swapped Etu or something for him back in the day, and then just didn't want him. And Arteta was the same with Aubameyang, just didn't want him. And there's an argument to be made that if Aubameyang is still the best finisher I've seen during Arteta's tenure as manager. So, again, lads, so much of this depends on success on the pitch. If Arteta builds a dynasty, this will all be forgotten.
Yeah, definitely.
If Arteta fails, and by fail I mean multiple league championships, he's done 80% of the work by winning one. You can never take that away from him now. But the rest of it, absolutely. And I think it's a bit naive to think that he's not involved in transfer processes. Ultimately, his job hinges on that transfer being a success. He's the one that's guiding what the team needs to the recruitment department or whatever. So let's make it right. He is very much involved in it. What I do think he gets wrong is that sometimes he just picks the wrong hill to die on, and that's what it is. Like, for example, if you want Martinelli to go, Nathan, you and I agree on Martinelli. Dave's a bit more positive, but you and I agree on Martinelli, right? I think his cycle with Arsenal's done. That's just what it is. You've got a league title out of us, but I think for the level that we're trying to get to, might not ever get there, we're trying to get to, we need an elite level upgrade. Okay, fine. Zolis isn't that elite level upgrade, regardless of what anyone says, right? He's not the elite level upgrade. He might be an upgrade. We'll see how that goes. But he's not the elite level one that we're looking for. But what is completely unnecessary is to treat Martinelli like that and kind of out him out of the squads, because you're just tanking the value of the player. Guardiola, you watch Man City in all the last years that we've seen them, and we rate Man City in their ability to sell shite for like millions. And if you look at them, you never notice anything about that player apart from that he's just been sold. That's it. There's no kind of narrative. There's no kind of a sequence of events that's taken place that then gets him to the door and then gets him sold. Like, there isn't this kind of thing. And then maybe some of it's to do with the atmosphere at the club. Maybe it's something to do with the management style itself. Or maybe people just don't want to leave. Maybe they just really like it there. And so, but either way, either that wheel, and I think all three of us share the same concern, either that wheel turns or we're stuck, and then we plateau. And then we plateau the team, you're dead. So, like I said, I make both of you right in that way. Not to sit on the fence on this matter, but I don't think there's a single solution to this. But there are helpful things you can do, like, for example, not trying to push someone out the door and leave them out of squads and stuff. It's not necessary. Completely not necessary. And then, or just playing your favorite player for 50 games straight, breaking him, and then expecting his reserve to step in and do the job that the other one was doing when he's not good enough, and he's just going to look shit now because he hasn't played for 6 months. So there's got to be a maturing of that. So, let's hope so. But again, I'll go back to my central point. If we win, these discussions are by the by, aren't they? There's hardly any relevance to them. Is if we don't win, which is likely, well, maybe not this year, but next year, and then you've got a problem. Then you've really got a problem. But let's hope we keep winning, eh?
Yeah. Well, we sort of done Martinelli, didn't we? Let's have a quick chat about Julian Alvarez before we move on to sort of more general football talk. I mean, I've just got one question for you both.
Go for it.
Do you think he's worth the hassle? Is 150 million or whatever it's going to be. Seemingly doesn't particularly want to play for us. All these sort of red flags. I mean, Nath, is he good enough to be throwing this chase it like behind, and putting up with all the shit around it? Because I genuinely don't know. There's some people I know that really like him, who I sort of would trust their opinion. There's others who don't so much. I'm sort of somewhere in the middle. I think he's got potential, but I don't know. Is he that is? I don't know. Should we be doing this chase for somebody who doesn't even really want us?
I think there's two questions there, isn't there? There's, is he worth it, and does he want it? They're the two questions, aren't they?
I think the second one, I think we sort of know, don't we? I think he might want it if it's his absolute last resort, isn't it? It seems to be the answer to that one.
Well, I think the situation right now is, I think it's closer to being he'll come than he wouldn't, because of just the way of Atletico Madrid have handled it and all that kind of stuff. I think, I think he might be getting to the point now where he's like, if it's not Barca, then I'll take whatever's next. Yeah,
it does seem like if he ends up with us, it's going to be because he just doesn't want to be at Atletico Madrid anymore, rather than necessarily sort of desperate to come to Arsenal or anything, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which, like you say, it's a bit of a red flag. It's not what you want. You want to be signing players who want to come to the club.
Arteta said that. Do you remember Arteta saying that?
Saying what?
If I look in the player's eyes, I have to know that he wants to be here, type of thing. Am I high or something? I've forgotten that he said that.
There's definitely something along that line. I don't remember exactly what it is. There was definitely something. He says a lot of stuff though, doesn't he, Arteta? There's a lot of lines he comes out with. So sometimes they sort of blend in a bit, but there's a lot of Brent-esque lines that come out of Arteta's mouth.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, but he said something like that, didn't he? But go on, Nathan. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted, mate.
No, it was a good point. I think. Why would you not? I don't know. This might be me being a bit absolutely batshit crazy here, but why would you not say to him, like, all right, fair enough. You want Barca. You ain't getting Barca or Atletico Madrid, but you can certainly get Barca if you come to us. Why not put in his contract clause? If Barca come in with 100 to 120 million, we'll let you go, but only after you've got to give us the next 2 to 3 years. So you've got to see we'll give you a 4-year contract, but if it gets to 2 to 3 years and Barca come in with 120 million, we will accept that offer. Surely that entices him. Surely. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's what I've seen a lot of people say, isn't it? That sort of thing in a contract would make some sense to get him.
Why not? We get 120 million. We can go and replace him, with a very good player for that kind of money. He gets his dream move. We recoup a big chunk of money, and we can go and sign another superstar. Everyone wins, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? In terms of is he worth it? Yeah, I think he is, because I think he improves us wherever Arteta decides to put him. He will be better than whatever's there now, and I think he'll be comfortably better than whatever is there now as well. My only thing that is, if we sign him and he wants to play up front, because I think that's his preferred. He likes playing as a striker, doesn't he? Is surely we have to dramatically change how we play, because he is nowhere near the profile that we've got at the moment. Mm-hmm. So if he's going to be starting, that surely we have to change how we play.
That feels familiar though, doesn't it? I feel like we say that quite often. This is episode 24. I feel like we said that quite a lot about some of the players we have, and
about 20 times.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that I really don't know.
And you're right every single time.
Yeah,
you're right every single time. We are suckers when it comes to that. No, if we sign someone, they need to play how we play, And if they don't, then we don't need them. Or if they're not the right kind of fit, I'll make Nathan right though. He is very different to what we've got.
Yeah,
So this time we are going to have to change the way we play.
Yeah,
He's not a fucking target man. I'll tell you that.
I'm not saying that we have to change for him. I'm just saying if that's the play that we're bringing in, does that suggest that we're already thinking of making that change? Like, you know, otherwise, what you're doing? That would be the question. If we don't change anything, and obviously, you know, it doesn't work out because Alvarez can't get a shot on target because of the way that we play, then obviously we need to be looking at Arteta and be going, what was your grand plan here? Like, signing Alvarez, yeah, I get it if you're going to play this way, but if you're not going to change, then what was the point in the whole dance that we did to get him in, kind of thing?
So let me ask you a question then, mate. Well, both of you really. We're selling Martinelli, and we're signing him to play up front. How does that help the left side? That completely unbalances our squad. And now, if you say he's going to play on the left, okay, cool. Like, you know, he's a good player. I'm sure he could play on the left, but he's not. He's established. He might have done that at City when he was an unknown, and a very good player, but he's not anymore. He's now the number 9 of the team, like, you know, Champions League team. He wants to play number 9 again, and I think that's where Barca will play him. Barca aren't playing him on the left or the right. They've got good players there already. Going to your point about sort of can we do a deal where he expects to go to Barca in 2 years? I think that train moves on, man, by then. I think Barca are looking at Haaland in a couple of years, or they're looking at whoever the new hot shot is at that time. I think that train moves on very quickly, doesn't it? Real Madrid and Barca don't hang around for anybody. So there's that. He is better than what we've got. So there's always that argument. But then we're massively stacked up front, and we play one up front. So do we switch to 2 up front? I don't know. I do know that he's better than everything we've got in a forward department. So just on that basis, he plays. What that means for the rest of them, I don't know, but we'll have to sell him. We'll have to sell somebody. But it doesn't solve our left-hand side. And I just think, like, that's £150 million after a player who clearly doesn't want you unless he can't get their dream move. And, you know, it's not solving anything for us apart from making us better in a position that we were already stacked in. So as much as I'm for getting better players, I am slightly concerned that we're going to do our bollocks on him, and he doesn't want to come. Can I tell you a quick account that I read from somebody on Twitter the other day, and it kind of put this signing in a different perspective for me. So Aguero was also at Atletico Madrid. Real Madrid wanted him. Atletico refused to sell him to them. And City jumped in and said, if you don't want to go there, we'll take you. And in the end, Atletico, to not sell him to Real Madrid, ended up selling him to City. The rest is history. So it can work if someone doesn't really want you as their first choice. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Buadi's first choice was not Man City. I'm sure for the last 20 years, players' first choice has not been Manchester City. But they've got them all. Yeah. For whatever reason, they've got them all. Now, maybe you might find that, like, you know, Rodri and people like that, by the time they came, City was somebody, and therefore they wanted to sign for City. I get it, right? But not before then. So you've kind of got I think Arsenal are just below that elite level because we've not won a Champions League. And I think there's a part of us that we have to sell to the most elite level players in the world. Now, there aren't many of those. There's probably about 10 in the world that make us better. And that's in all positions. And we're going to have to sell them. Don't sign for Bayern. Don't sign for PSG. Don't sign for Real Madrid. Don't sign for Barca. Don't sign for City. Don't sign for Liverpool. That we're going to have to sell them that. In which case, you know, but I would rather him than second choice left winger from PSG for 150 million quid. So it just depends. It just depends what you want out of that position. I think Arteta's going to play Eze this year if we don't get a left winger, and I think he's going to go all in for Alvarez. Even if we're second choice, I think he's still going to want him.
Yeah, I think you are right though. I think you don't have to be a player's first choice for it to, to sign him. I really don't think it matters that much. It's more just I genuinely don't know if Alvarez is worth the hassle. I know stats aren't everything, but you look at his scoring record. He plays obviously a lot more central, but if you compare his record to Martinelli's, they're not a million miles off. But
he scored eight. He scored 8 goals last year.
Yeah, I don't know about a Champions League campaign, but in the league, his best season 17, and then after that, it's only 11. That's not, for a £150 million striker. I think you would expect a little bit more output than that. And I know, maybe he makes Saka better, and Saka scores more because Alvarez up front, and maybe it's better for Odegaard and stuff like that. And I think as a whole, that is potentially
that's what Havertz does.
I think. Yeah, and I think with Jesus, I think that's the best the other players have looked up front, and I think Alvarez is potentially more that style of player than he is, what we've got. But I think that's my issue, that there is a lot of red flags with him, aside from the fact that he doesn't even want to play for us seemingly. It's I don't know, it's a tough one, isn't it? But I don't know if there is better out there. It's
my missus, when she's upset, often reminds me that I wasn't her first choice. But she's upstairs looking after the kids at the moment. So it works sometimes.
It does. Well, I'm sure we'll have more to talk about that in next week's episode when we approach the deadline day, won't we? So let's do a quick roundup of some of the other games. We'll skip ours because obviously we spoke about it a lot on Friday, didn't we, Fired? So there's no need to go back over that. But, should we just go through some of these games chronologically? Because at one stage, I think when Man City were 1-0 down, this was looking like an absolute dream Premier League weekend, wasn't it? But let's start at the top. Hull 2, Man United 0. That was lovely, wasn't it?
That was fun. That was fun. I even forgot the football was on a Saturday. All I heard was, let's go back to wherever their ground's called again. Was it the KC Stadium? It was, or something else now? Yeah. They went back then. It was 2-0. It was fantastic. And this is the best thing about Man United getting turned over on any given Saturday, is because the Friday, the Thursday, the Wednesday, the Tuesday, the Monday, in the build-up, they have just been at our throats saying, we're coming to win the Premier League. Carrick's at the wheel. Don't sleep in us this year. And everyone was telling them, listen, mate, Tielemans is fat. Andrea Santos can't get a game for fucking Strasbourg, let alone Chelsea. And you've just signed Madueke in central midfield, mate. You're about to find out how Chelsea fucking knock people for 50 million quid. And there you go. They still play Harry Maguire. They're still messing around with putting fullbacks on the wings. They bought Sesko, bench. They bought Rashford back, gave him the number 9 shirt, bench. And it's more of the same, but long may it continue. Long may it continue. Yeah. Keep telling us you're brilliant. We've done that for ages. 20 years we thought we were good when we were shit. Yeah, a few more, mate.
Yeah, definitely looks that way. Well, the Saturday afternoon games were, nothing to shout about in there. Those, was there anything from them, Nath, that you particularly want to talk about? There wasn't anything too interesting there, was there?
If you want me to blitz through it, mate, Everton winning 2-0 and looking comfortable against Palace. Thought that was a good result for them, and a bit of a shocking one for Palace. They might need to have a long look at themselves.
They could be in trouble this year, Palace, couldn't they? They look a bit iffy, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Ipswich winning against Sunderland. Are Sunderland going to have that second season syndrome? Are we seeing that early, or was it just a case of coming up against an absolutely buoyant home crowd, a bit like United at Hull? Away to a newly promoted team, the fans are going bananas. They're absolutely bang up for it, and they've just got it wrong on the day. We'll have to wait and see. And then the Forest Leeds game sounded like, it was just an absolute stalemate. Two teams cancelling each other out until you got a bit of magic with the free kick at the end, and that's just one of them goals where you've got to go, do you know what? Fair play. Not a lot I can do against that. It stings and it hurts, but it's going to happen from time to time, isn't it?
It certainly is. Well, let's get on to maybe the best result of the weekend, even better than ours. Spurs, the best midfield in the world, or at least the Premier League. You know, I can't remember what their fans are saying now. You know, all these other signings they've made, and then absolutely embarrassed at Brentford, weren't they? Go on then. Fires, you might as well take this one, I reckon. I feel like you might have sound good here.
200 million? 300 million. It's the history of Tottenham, lads. We've seen it before. They'll sign a couple of more forwards. They'll do it again. The best thing about Tottenham, by a country mile, is that they've given all these highly expensive tools to an absolute nutcase. and within about 3 months, he's going to blow up. He's turned up on the first day of the season. You imagine this. You run an organization, right? And you say to someone, here you go. Here's all the resources you need. It's everything you want. We're going to pay you what you want. And on the first day, he turns up and goes, we're not ready. We've just been slapped. We're not ready. Sorry. Yeah. And that's what he's done. He's turned up. They've got absolutely rolled over. And he just said, we're not ready yet. And people don't usually say that till about Christmas when they go, oh, you know, the team, they're suffering, they're tired. First day of the season, they're knackered. So, not being funny, lads, what did you expect? This is what they do. Many a good player has gone to Tottenham and it's been their absolute graveyard. So, welcome back, lads. New season. Here we go again.
Yeah.
And they'll be shite again. And I'm here for it.
Yeah. It's it certainly looks that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
but even
feel
better
bad.
was Villa, mate. Best manager in the league. Go on, Nathan. Tell us about Villa and the best manager in the league.
Well, I was going to say, I feel bad giving this one to Nave because he is our sort of Emery apologist on this show, isn't he? So I know you didn't like plan this out, but I mean, this was woeful from Villa, wasn't it? It was 4-0 in about 5 minutes, wasn't it? I don't even know when the goals went in, but I know it was very, very quick. And
I think it was half an hour, wasn't it?
It was. And then not long after, they got a sending off, didn't they? And honestly, at that stage, it did feel like it could have been 10. Brighton were absolutely all over them, weren't they? This was a dreadful performance from Villa, right?
It was absolutely shocking, and I get that Villa have been decimated. I totally understand that they've lost, you know, a lot of the good players that have got them to the Champions League and Europa League success. That was a disgusting performance from their players. The fans have every right to be fuming. The manager should be, forget that it's Emery. Whoever the manager is, should have gotten back into the dressing room, even at never mind full time, at half time, been like, "What the fuck was that? That was just pathetic. That was absolutely pathetic." I genuinely I'd go to the guys upstairs. If I was Emery, I'd be like, just fucking sell a lot of them. Get rid of all of them. If that's what they're going to do, fuck them all off. We'll chuck a lot of youth lads in, and we'll make as many signings as possible before deadline day. Because that was just it was disgusting. If that was my team, my head's coming off now, and I don't even give a shit about Villa. I have no alliance whatsoever with Villa. I've got a couple of Villa fans. I genuinely feel sorry for them because that was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. They're in big trouble. If that's how their players' mentality is on day one, regardless of whether they've lost players or not, you know, that's fine. It's always going to be tough, but no one put up a fight there. It was just pathetic, absolutely pathetic. Yeah. I can't even give Brighton that much credit because Villa were that bad, and Brighton do deserve credit because they went and did a job. You know, they went out there, they did a job. Villa were just pathetic.
Yeah, I think it's like Villa have lost some players, but Brighton have lost a few players as well, haven't they? You know, they've had a few players go out the door, and I think they looked pretty good. I mean, Hinchelwood, we spoke about him last week, didn't we? As just one of them weird rumours to Arsenal, but I mean, he looked pretty good again, didn't he? It was
absolutely, yeah.
If they were going to sell him, he added a few million onto that transfer fee, didn't he? If he is going to move. But,
I think in the Brighton Villa game, the real loser was the Brighton manager, mate. Have you seen his Barnet?
That's so weird.
He's got the most.
I assume it was a hair transplant or something, and he was wearing a wig or something a year ago. I honestly don't know what's going on there. It's he'd wear a hat at least, wouldn't you? I think if that was you.
He looks like he's done a week's shift at like Chernobyl or something, hasn't he? And he's come out with the most communist haircut there is. Like, what you did? What happened, mate?
Yeah, it's very
Where's
odd.
all this David Hasselhoff quiff type thing that he was trying to work with last year? So I think he's the real loser, mate, to be honest. And the old greasy one from Villa. Look, I don't rate him as a manager, never have done. But what can he do? Everyone's getting sold. Everyone's either getting sold or wants to go. I mean, Emiliano Martinez, for the best goalkeeper in the world, no one seems to want him for more than like 10 million quid. And transfers keep falling. He keeps waving bye to everyone, and he's still there the day after. So, you know, it's just not going well, is it? It's not going well, and that's what can happen if you spend a lot and don't do anything with it.
I think.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on, mate. Go on, finish off.
I was just saying. I just noticed that Morgan Rogers has just scored in his debut as well. So that's not a nice weekend for Villa fans, is it?
No.
I'd say the one saving grace that we can give to Villa fans, and it's very slim, is that last season did they not lose 5-1 against Newcastle at the start of the season, or the season before? They got battered 5-1 in the opening game, and they ended up qualifying for the Champions League that year. So, you know, it's day one, take it on the chin. But yeah, massive improvement needed.
Let's move on to the next game. Looked like it was going to be the dream weekend for Arsenal fans, didn't it? With essentially United losing, Spurs losing, Villa getting battered, and then Man City 1-0 down after, was it 80 minutes? And then 81, and then just 91st minute, I think it was, pulled out the win. I mean, do you watch this one, Fires? It was
I did, yeah.
Annoying Man City win, wasn't it?
No, but it wasn't though, mate. It wasn't, because I've seen it, lads. You know, like that fella with the really aggressive eyebrows for the Man United fan TV. What's his name? Makola or something. I've seen it with Man City, mate. Because what it is in Man City, he's gone mad. He was playing Gahey in central midfield. Yeah, so I have got immense faith that he's gonna bollocks this up. He was on the pitch afterwards, talking to Ryan Cherky, Guardiola style, like really for the cameras, like really performative, and tapping Cherky, going, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that," And I thought, yeah, all right then, mate. Yep, that's a bit transparent. So not worried about them, mate. Not worried about them at all.
Well, that one might come back to haunt us at the end of the season. I'll clip that up, and just put that in the in the little folder.
Fuck them. Let it come. No chance. Let it come.
Newcastle Liverpool, the game that Sky loves to just put on every single year, just because 25 years ago they had a good game once. It was now it's the game we see every year, isn't it? Newcastle Liverpool, but this one was pretty entertaining in fairness. But
I was going to say this game just kind of shot all over what you were saying there, didn't it?
Yeah, I know, but they still do put it on every year, don't they? And then we'll still get highlights of the 4-3, and it's like, oh, can we get it? Stan Collymoore's been retired about 20 years himself, hasn't he? And we don't need to see that highlights again. But yeah, this was a good one, wasn't it? And again, it looked like Liverpool were going to get beat as well, weren't it? Didn't it? In this one.
Yeah. Newcastle surprised me a little bit. Actually, played really, really well. I watched a little bit of it. Probably watched up until just before half time. And Newcastle were really good on the counter. Liverpool was so open at the back, and just the defensive line was nowhere where it just was always in the wrong place. It felt. And Kirkes, Jesus, he was on. Elanga had him on toast, absolutely on toast. He was all over the show, absolutely awful. Like I say, I only watched the first half. I don't know if anything improved in the second half, but yeah, that first half. Yeah, literally, like the first half, everyone watching the telly was like, just hit it over Kirkes' head and let Elanga chase him. As long as Elanga's within 2 yards of him, just hit it over his shoulder and let him run onto it. That should have been the tactic for Newcastle for the rest of the game, because he was winning that all day long. But do you know what? I've got nothing against Newcastle Liverpool being on the telly. I'm all right with that. That's that's a proper Premier League game. I'm happy to watch that most weeks. So yeah, keep putting it on. I want to see Stan Collymore running off. I want to see Keegan slunts over the boards. Get that nostalgia in.
Yeah, fair enough.
When are we?
God, sorry.
When is anyone? When are we going to have a conversation about the fact that Liverpool spent all this money on this attack? And they are soft as fucking ice cream, mate. They are shite.
I do wonder if we're gonna see a defensive signing, because their defense looks so far off it. I think they'll work something out in attack. I think they'll be all right. I think going forward, won't they? But defensively, that they could be in real trouble this year if real trouble relatively. I'm not saying they're going to go down like that, but in terms of where they want to be, and maybe where people think they're going to be, including me, I had them as my Premier League winner a week ago. So their defence looks so far off it. We're only one weekend, but it's the players I think are the issue rather than anything else.
I weirdly thought the midfield was contributing so badly where defensively. I looked at the midfield and I was like, right, so who's holding?
Yeah,
who's helping these guys out? I think they put a lot on the shoulders of Van Dijk, who's just not at that level anymore. He needs help. No. He's still a very good defender. Do you know what I mean? He genuinely is a really, really good defender, but he needs help now. He can't do it all on his own like he was doing. He needs someone strong next to him.
He gets exposed a bit now, doesn't he? That
is exactly the right word. Yeah, he never used to get exposed before, whereas through no fault of his own, he is getting exposed now, and he just needs a little bit of help in front of him. But Gravenberch, Slobozai, I don't even know who the other one was. Who's doing the defensive dirty work? Was it Averts? Yeah. So who's doing the defensive dirty work there?
Yeah. Nobody. I think it's probably based on their performance. So.
Yeah. So now you're asking an over the hill Van Dijk and a brand new signing to the Premier League to defend against these teams coming at you. It's not going to work, is it?
No. But definitely one to keep an eye on. I think there, and I wonder if we'll see a signing or two from them in the next week. Did either of you have Fulham Chelsea on in the background while we've been recording this? Because it finished 3-2, but I haven't watched a minute of it, to be honest. So I don't know if
I've only been keeping up with the text stuff. Apparently, both teams were very open at the back, and Sanchez is still absolutely shite. Was the two things that I seem to have got from it.
That's
about right. That's about right.
Obviously, Roger scored. I feel like that's probably the most interesting thing from our point of view, isn't it? That he's off the mark already. But I think I said at the time when they signed him, I think he's a much better signing for Chelsea than he ever would have been for us.
Totally.
There's a hole for him there, and I think he fits in at Chelsea. Where I still don't know where he'd have actually ended up playing, because if Odegaard is back, like hopefully we think he might be, based on the a couple of games we've seen in the World Cup. He wouldn't be beating out Odegaard in what is hopefully his form. So, and maybe he would have been the left-hand side player. I don't know, but it doesn't seem where he wants to play, does it? So I think Chelsea made a lot more sense from there. And he seems like a nice bloke, doesn't he? So hopefully he does well there. While Chelsea fail miserably, him personally can do well, while Chelsea don't, can't they?
No, is the answer to that, mate. No, I can't be dealing with Arsenal fans when we hit a bad bit of form. I can't be dealing with Arsenal fans going, "Oh, look, Rodgers would have done this and Rodgers would have done that." And no, mate, it's okay. It's okay.
We've got the first Greek Ballon d'Or winner coming, so on our left wing, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly right. Or if Rodgers is shit, we could get Chelsea will sell him to us for like 80 million.
Yeah.
So there's always that.
That's not how we deal with Chelsea. We'll somehow make him profitable on him. He does terribly, and then somehow we'll give him a few extra million on top just to
when the auditors
that's how we deal with Chelsea.
When PSR deadline's around the corner, they'll give us a call, and we'll buy someone shit off them. Yeah.
And
this is what we do, lads.
It is. Well,
it is. Anyway,
I think that's us for this week, isn't it? The next week we got transfer deadline day. That's a week away now. We've got Villa next Monday. So a busy couple of days for us then. We'll be back. Definitely.
Bollocks! I should have been nicer about Villa. Anyway,
I mean, I think we all know somehow they bounce back and either beat us or it's 2-0 or something. It's just how it works, isn't it? It's
Well, they can't be worse, can they? Let's be fair.
They definitely can't be worse.
We can hope that they are, but it's highly unlikely.
Maybe this is their 8-2 at Old Trafford. This is their. They got to make some signings and look a lot better quickly. They signed their Arteta and their Mertesacker.
That worked out well for us, didn't it?
Well, I think we were better.
Ooh.
Oh no. Is this his battery dying?
Yeah, this is communication down. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are
Yes.
done at the tap room. Someone turned up with a low battery. Anyway, Nathan, lovely to
Yeah.
speak to you, mate.
You too, pal. It's been a
Yeah.
fun start to the season, so hopefully we can have a few more laughs along the way.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We've still got to do we've got Villa next week away, and then nothing really matters. I mean, you look at all these results and stuff, and you think you look at it and you think, well, you know what? I reckon we win it this year. It does look good for us, but it's far too early, isn't it?
It is too early, but I think this weekend plays into what I was saying in my prediction, that I just think that we're in such a good place in terms of being settled. You know, everybody else has got so much change, and you can see that in the results of how unsettled those results are and those performances have been. It will settle down. Give it 4 or 5 games, it'll settle down. Teams will, figure out what they are and where they want to be and things like that, and then we'll start to see who's actually going to be challenging this season.
Yeah.
But you know what it's like first game of the season. You've got teams coming up who are absolutely, bouncing off the walls, especially at home.
They're free hits, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. I wouldn't have liked Coventry away, for example. Coventry away is a completely different game. Coventry at home, it works in our favour. So, yeah. Fun times to come anyway.
I hope so, mate. I hope so. But we've still got November to come. We've still got everything to bollocks up in the first week of December. So it sure will be fun and games.
We can't be too positive. We can't be too positive for Arsenal fans. That's not how we work.
No, that's not how we work.
That's not how we work.
The
leader's back. He's back.
Right. Laptop died. Now I'm off phone.
The consummate professional, as always, of course.
Absolutely, yeah, of course, of course.
We were talking about the fact that it's still a long way to go. It's only just started, so we'll see. We'll stick with it, and we'll see how things work out in the near future. But I mean, for our first meltdown, it's going to be next week, isn't it? Transfer deadline day. Someone's not going to be happy, and by someone, I mean everyone.
Yeah, we're all
no one's going to be happy. Yeah, we'll be top of the league and we'll be flying. We'll beat up a few teams, and there'll be a massive part of our fan base going, "Well, we should have just got Vinny Jr." or "Well, I can't believe we didn't pull that one off," or other people will be saying, "Oh, I can't believe we stuck with Havertz," and there'll be a lot of this, and then we'll just sitting there going, "We're top of the league, lads. It could be worse. Defending champions, it could be worse." But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Martinelli, Dave, are we gonna? I kind of feel like we should have a little bit of a chat about Martinelli, just about his time at Arsenal, because he is one of the young players that came through and has seen us right till the end of our that end of the trust, that process we were meant to trust. So maybe next time when he's confirmed his signing, or maybe when we get together, we'll have a little chat about Martinelli, because he's not been nice what the club's done to him, but fair play to him. He's been a good soldier. He's done good work for us. And he leaves as a champion, God bless him. So, Yeah,
we're going to pick up them Emirates era podcast at some stage. And I do think Martinelli is, this Arteta era, he's sort of been here for pretty much all of it, hasn't he? I think he signed around the time Arteta came in. So he's a big part of that thing. I don't think he's even a defining player of the era.
No,
I think Saka probably takes that. But, Martinelli's definitely around that and sort of, as you say, part of our journey. And, maybe it's the end of this era and moving on to the next phase when we do it. But
definitely,
that'd be interesting.
Definitely. Well,
one question then before we sign off, just a quick one: do we make a big signing before? And I'm talking like 100 million plus before deadline day. Don't say who, but just yes or no. Do we make a big signing?
No.
Well, I was going to say no, but I feel like I just have to say yes, just to. We can't all say no, can we? I'll say yes, then why not? But
I really hope.
I don't think we sign Alvarez. I really don't think we sign Alvarez in the end. But he might be. I think we might panic and go into one of them other, Barcola or someone. But yeah, we'll do all that next week. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do all that stuff, because it genuinely does make a big difference. We're still trying to grow this, and we need your help. So if you're watching and not subscribed, hit subscribe, and join us for next week when we'll be talking. We'll probably be back with a live reaction for the Villa game, and then we'll do something for deadline day as well, because it could be an interesting one this year.
We can get a yellow band going across the bottom.
That's it. Yeah, I'm sure I could.
Should we wear yellow
turn all these yellow.
day,
Yeah, we'll go full Jim White, get the yellow ties out and stuff. I don't think I own a yellow tie. I barely own any ties because I don't actually have to wear a suit ever. So it's not many ties there. Definitely not a yellow one. I don't think. But
not.
We'll be back for deadline day, Villa reaction, all that stuff. So make sure you subscribe and follow on. So cheers, lads. Sorry about them going missing for a couple of minutes there at the end, but
didn't notice.
On there. Just straight in and out and in even. We will see you next week for all of that.
See ya.
Cheers, everyone.